can see you. How is it that I could do the show out of New York for 2 days and like you can't walk, what, 5 flights of stairs? I don't even know what floor you're on.
So you're in New York
again tonight? Everyone thinks we're all like hanging out together, but I never see Tucker. He's, I never see you.
Literally, I spend an hour and 20 minutes in this building, and I'm boom out the door.
Yeah, I know. You come in. Hannity comes in with jeans and like vape pen. Sorry, am I not supposed to say
I do. No, I do. It's called a Jewel. It's a great.
Oh no, we're trying to get that. Oh no,
remember the Daily Mail literally ran frame by frame. They got me on tape.
That was actually. Wait, you have to take up smoking again
my son,
quit the vape
it shows up on bar stools. My son's like, Dad, that's really cool. My daughter's like, Dad, that's so humiliating and embarrassing.
I'll stick with your daughter's analysis. Sean, you had a great show tonight.
All right, have a great show.
All right, it's good to see you. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle back in Washington tonight. Progressives gone wild. Right off the bat, that's the focus of tonight's angle. The 2020 election cycle has already begun, and the superstars of the Democratic Party are now more left-wing than ever before, and they're already trying to outdo one another on the compassion scale.
Well, the first thing I would do is restore what's been lost, the integrity and the compassion of this country.
New York loves you if you are L or G or B or T or Q, if you are black or white or brown, if you are a Christian, a Muslim, or if you are Jewish, if you're a new immigrant or an old immigrant, New York loves you. And what makes us great is we have no tolerance for hate in our state.
Catchy. He left off Asians and atheists. Okay. Of course, when Cuomo says no tolerance for hate, he really means no tolerance for conservatives and the positions that they hold. Because in Cuomo's compassionate New York, there's also no tolerance for the inalienable rights of the unborn. The life in the womb that his own church says is sacred.
I believe we should pass a constitutional amendment, not just a Roe v. Wade law, a constitutional amendment. Let's write the rights of Roe v. Wade into the state constitution so it can never be changed.
I think what's going on here is that Cuomo, like so many on the left, is really worried. He's worried that the Supreme Court might reverse Roe, might send it all back to the states. And he also has to know that public opinion is shifting a bit toward the more pro-life position. And by the way, if America's declining fertility rate continues, hey, Andy, I have a question. Who's going to pay all those taxes to support his pet projects? Of course, with zero regard for facts, Cuomo brags that he has this economic prosperity thing down.
We're the most progressive government in the United States of America. We balanced budgets. We have the most socially progressive accomplishments of any state in the nation, and it's not even close. First big state to pass marriage equality. First state to pass $15, the highest minimum wage.
Yay, the Democrat zombies, they actually pan the audience. They're all standing, they're applauding, standing ovation, but they're unconcerned with the real world effects of some of those policies, namely this rise in the minimum wage. John Bluestein, who owns 6 restaurants in New York City, told CBS, "We lost control of our largest controllable expense. So in order to live with that and stay in the business here, we're cutting hours." Well, this is the 3rd wage hike in New York since 2016. So who does that really help? Well, certainly not the restaurants, not the workers getting the hours cut, and not the patrons. A New York City Hospitality Alliance survey of 574 restaurants found that 75% of full-service restaurants plan to cut employee hours this year due to that minimum wage hike. But that's not all. 47% say they will cut jobs in 2019. And 87% say they're going to raise menu prices. We went out to dinner last night in New York. It was pretty expensive already. Well, this is the opposite, my friends, of compassion. And this brings us to the freshest of congressional freshmen. fresh people, what can we say now? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who happily refers to herself as both a socialist and a radical. Now, by the way, I think it's a mistake for conservatives not to take her seriously, to brush her off as kind of a flash in the pan or an upstart. She's as close to a thought leader that the Democratic Party has today, and she has a massive social media following. She's both charismatic and she's committed to transforming both our economic system and our culture. First, she aims to create a socialist economic system with sky-high marginal tax rates. Now, to mandate campus-style political correctness. What do I mean by that? Well, anyone who dares question this progressive agenda is not just wrong, but they're downright evil. So there's no room for debate, only demonization. In a recent tweet, she asserts, many have recognized that Fox News has crossed the line beyond conservatism into outright bigotry with their financing of Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham. Well, you see, my friends, this isn't your daddy's liberalism, where it was all about love and peace and live and let live. This is kind of the old school New England Puritanism with a radical twist. They're going to whip up their followers to try to intimidate and silence anyone who gets in their way. Now, she's only been on the job for like 6 days, but she's already practicing Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Rule 13, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Cut off the support network and isolate the target from sympathy. Go after people and not institutions. People hurt faster than institutions. So rather than debating the merit of policies, these new left-wing progressive Puritans aim to shame. A wall is racist, so people who want a wall are racist. End of story.
A wall is an immorality. It's not who we are as a nation. It's a wall between reality and his constituents, his supporters.
Now, all of you who are doing better in the Trump economy, you should know this. They plan to take your money away and redistribute it to, wherever their pet causes are. And to all of our libertarian friends who believe that Trump is the big threat to the free market because of tariffs and so forth, open your eyes. These people, including Nancy Pelosi, who herself has moved to the left, they're going to take it all away. Freedom of speech, freedom of contract, freedom of religion or conscience. You think I'm exaggerating? I'm not. Because when you say the wrong thing in Ocasio-Cortez world, they put you in detention hall and you never get out. Remember, they believe that they're right and you're evil. And moderates even seem petrified of taking on these new progressives. This was former SEC Chair Richard Breeden today on CNBC.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez joining the House Financial Services Committee, led by Maxine Waters. What's that going to look like for the industry?
Well, maybe she'll learn something.
Are you questioning some of her economic ideas that she's put out there?
I've never seen any historic evidence that 70% tax rates facilitate GDP growth. Perhaps. We'll discover something.
Oh my God, I'm watching this morning going, is that all you have, Richard? That's a really powerful refutation, real strong defense of the free market and capitalism. And Republicans ought to take the progressive takeover of the Democratic Party very seriously and offer a strong counter-narrative. If you want to know what it looks like to be a conservative and perpetually in the fetal position, worried about being branded racist or evil, well, look no further than Theresa May. Okay, it didn't work out so well for her to be on her heels. Now, Trump is the opposite. He fights. He fights for law and order. He fights for sovereignty. He fights for judges who apply the law and don't rewrite it. And he fights for a stronger economy. So after 2 years of President Trump, we have higher wages. We have 500,000 new manufacturing jobs. We have the strongest GDP growth among all the G7 nations. But the progressives, they don't care. Because if enacting their green contract with America requires your standard of living to go down, tough cookies. These people are fanatics, and they're running for president.
But are you considering running for president? I'm focused on my job, but listen, right now our party is going through a serious debate. And there's still a lot of moderate voices in the party that did not learn the lessons of 2016 and are not listening to what people need in this country. So I want to push this whole party. We could go a lot farther. We could be a lot bolder than what we're doing now.
So you ruling it out?
I never rule things out.
Well, watch your wallet. And what are the progressives actually learning themselves? Moderates aren't learning. What are the progressives learning? Well, not much. Americans are fleeing the most progressive states in America due to high costs and high taxes. No wonder they're welcoming illegal immigrants in New York and California. They need the citizens coming in. All the other citizens are leaving. Are Americans really ready to be ruled by the values and policies of progressives in New York and California? Let's hope not. And that's the angle. All right, joining me now, Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union, Raheem Kassam, former editor-in-chief of Breitbart News London, and Monique Presley, Democratic strategist. All right, guys, I love the graphic. Girls Gone Wild. Remember that? Well, that's a wild show. The Progressives Gone Wild. Kind of a little fun. You got to laugh, you know. Matt, you know, my feeling is it's kind of easy, and I've fallen into that, to kind of like brush people off. Oh, Ocasio-Cortez, ha, 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 she's so funny. But I said I got to say, I said at the very beginning, it's really impressive that she goes from being, you know, she was working in a coffee shop.
Right.
You know, fairly modest means.
Yep.
And she takes on this very liberal, you know, Crowley, Congressman Crowley, third in leadership in the Democratic Party.
Right.
And she just organizes the heck out of it and rolls right over him. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like the fact she's like, you guys lost to Trump. I'm going to help take this party in a new direction. I kind of admire that. I mean, her little tweet about me is just, I mean, I think she's probably, I mean, my authentic self, I mean, she's questioning my own truth, I think. As a single woman, I felt so offended by what she said about me.
I mean,
woman to
she
woman.
should come on your show.
I think you'll do
just fine.
We called her. We tried to get in touch with her, but haven't heard back. Would love to have you on. Would have a good conversation, actually. But I don't think it's smart for conservatives to kind of ridicule her really, or to write her off as some anomaly. I don't think so.
Look, we have CPAC coming up here in less than 50 days, and what's happening on college campuses, but also high school campuses and younger, is this radicalization of the education establishment. And look at the results. Look what's coming out of it, Laura. She has advanced, expensive degrees, and she doesn't seem to know basic fundamentals about constitutional government, American law, and economics. I'm not mocking her. I actually fear, because it's working. People are listening to this. They're listening to the siren song. We need to wake up, and we need to educate our kids to push back on this radicalism, because America won't be the same if we don't win these battles.
Monique, is this enough, the California New York coalition? Obviously, a lot of people in both states. But is that enough to drive the party back into the heartland, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, states they obviously need to win?
Look, we have to win everywhere. And I'm not in favor of us just winning on coasts. I'm not from a coast. I'm from Texas, deep in the heart of Texas.
Good. I already like you.
So I believe that you have to have a message that speaks to everyone.
Does she speak for everyone?
But I don't think the message that Matt just gave us about the poor girl who really doesn't understand things like economics will work when we have a president who serves hamburgers but can't spell it. I mean, do you put ham and then burger and then will it be easier?
Well,
will that not be?
Yeah, but that's a snide comment. I mean, that's what people do.
Well, if he only misspelled one thing, it would be petty.
Do you really want to go there on spelling and grammar? Do you really want to go there?
Because I can go through,
and
I know you can spell.
I can go through AOC's tweets. I can go through Nancy Pelosi's.
I'm not such a good speller.
That's really where we're going. That's not your best argument.
He's a 70-plus-year-old billionaire, and she's the youngest person to ever be a member of Congress.
I just said we should take her seriously.
So here's the thing, and I think we should, but when we look at mistakes, like I said, we need to look at mistakes from the person who has the highest office in the land, who regularly makes them.
But you're actually making a point that I think reinforces what I was saying earlier in an odd way. I said you should take her seriously. And I'm saying, I mean, I don't think she's... I don't think she's returning the favor to someone who's kind of worked her way up through the media. No one really gave me anything. I worked my tail off for what I have. So her little snide little comment about being a bigot or racist. It's just she's better than.
Hold
on.
It was Tucker.
No,
more than
she
you.
threw me
clip
in.
was about Tucker. She kind of threw you under the bus with Tucker.
Yeah, but conservative women never sort of get their due. It's only liberal women who get their protection. That's fine. I'm like, big
like
girl.
Maxine Waters.
But honestly, I think your point about Trump doesn't know how to spell or his tweets. Okay, fine, but if Trump is that dumb, as the liberals say,
he's not dumb.
Boy, how do you guys not beat him? You had Hillary Obama supporting him. You had all of Hollywood. You had all of the entertainment
But for the
news
Russian
industry.
assist, I think we would have beat him.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Go figure.
I'm not from deep in the heart of Texas, right? I'm from the United Kingdom, where we have had now in charge, and my parents are from Tanzania,
right.
And we have had in charge of the Labour Party now a hardline socialist, Jeremy Corbyn. And you guys need to take Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The Democrats need to take her more seriously and treat her as more of a danger than conservatives do. Because actually what Jeremy Corbyn has done in the Democrat Party, in the Labour Party rather, he cannot get his party to take power. Even if he won an election, he wouldn't hold the confidence of Parliament at the moment. And if you allow somebody who's clearly read Rules for Radicals and who's clearly well versed on Mark Lillard's Once and Future Liberal to take over both the cultural, and she's very good at the cultural, take over both the cultural and the policy orientation of the party, you won't get those reins back.
Right, she's very good and she's very smart. But I love that we're here discussing this a day after Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, right? Sure. Because he was considered fringe. He was considered very good at the cultural. He was considered.
He came from the church. He came from the church.
It doesn't matter where you come from.
And he was a nationalist.
He was
an American nationalist.
He had less popularity.
He was for America first.
He had less popularity at death than President Trump.
And he also was a Republican. So let's go through all this.
Tonight,
so here we go. Let's take her seriously. I agree. But not because she's a threat.
I'm happy.
But who else on TV is saying to take her seriously? I am. Yeah. I haven't heard anyone on the other shows is to take this very seriously.
For that, I just don't credit it as a threat. I think that
I don't agree. Now, let's go into this. Look. She is an amazing political leader.
She's charismatic.
I disagree with what she's saying on policy. I owe it to her to take her on.
But they're not smart. That just means they can talk.
I don't have to agree with her ideas. I don't.
Socialism a threat.
Right. It depends on whether you're talking about what socialism is defined as, or if you're talking about
she's defining it for us. She's defining. All right, but guys, think about
Bernie a threat?
Okay, hold on. I
There's a host.
Hold on. There's a host here. Here I am.
I'm sorry.
This is what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said to the Washington Post. And I want to say this because we actually reached out to the Post tonight, and we asked them for a full transcript of what they said. In this interview, and sometimes you edit for length, and I get that. But I wanted to see the full content of what she said, but they edited it for space and for, I don't know what. But they didn't give us the full transcript, but we got the printed transcript. And she said, there's nothing about the Republican ideology that is about wealth building or prosperity for the working class. Okay, now, that's really interesting in the Washington Post, because the Washington Post just published a piece in September talking about how blue-collar wages, the wage increases under Trump, the jobs boom has finally reached the blue-collar workers will at last. Well, thank God we're finally seeing wages go up. Wall Street doesn't like that. They want to keep wages down. Trump's policies are constricting the labor market. That's good for regular people, African Americans, Latinos, Asians, all going up with wages. How can she say this is not good for prosperity?
African Americans, Latinos, white people,
lower skilled wages.
Everybody has those lower skilled wages. There are more people who are poor, right, who are considered white.
Are you not saying?
But if you take the
Monique,
wages up,
that wages are going up, are you actually disagreeing with the Journal and the Bloomberg and Washington Post?
I'm trying to explain. Wages increasing is not the same as wealth building, is it? If I go from
how do you save money?
If I go from $10 to $11, that's
or
wealth
$25.
building. If I go from renting to owning,
okay, so let me
that's wealth building. So
Laura, let me have a shot here.
Really
Did you own a house the first moment you started working? I mean, I was doing
Let me have a shot here. Look,
it takes a while.
You have to check with people of color, and you have to know the numbers to know.
Look,
fair enough, but we.
All right,
hold on. Own houses later when they are of color. Do you know what the phrase "run train" means?
The phrase what?
Run train. Do you know what it means?
What does run train mean?
She says, and I quote, "I'm 6 days into the term and you already used all your ammo." Talk about Republicans discounting her. "So enjoy being exhausted for the next 2 years." I kind of like that. She's just daring them. I kind of like that. But then she said, "While we run train on the progressive agenda." Law enforcement analyst James Gagliano today says, "As someone who speaks live on air, who without a net understand misspeaking happens to the best of us, but know that no other context for this vile phrase. As someone who investigated violent street crime for years, this is vernacular of felons that I've interrogated, not a sitting congresswoman." So I guess everyone can misspeak every now and then.
It is a particularly violent phrase, by the way, and it implies a lack of consent as well, which is quite disturbing.
Like grabbing them by something.
Well, actually, he said they let you. If you remember, that implied consent.
All I can say is,
FYI.
people are leaving California,
That's right,
New York, and Venezuela. They're leaving all places.
So let's figure out the middle.
All right.
Like Texas.
We're out of time, but guys, great panel, great debate.
Thank you, Laura.
And I gave a compliment to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And it's not just for charisma, okay? She has guts. All right, up next, Nancy Pelosi now wants to shut down the State of the Union, but is she really just concerned about how she'll look after that maybe botched rebuttal to President last week? Stay there.
Madam Speaker, do you hope he sees this as a consequence of the government shutdown?
No, I just, this is a housekeeping matter in the Congress of the United States so that we can honor the responsibility of the invitation we extended to the President. You can make it from the Oval Office if you want.
Well, it's time for another edition of Petulant and Pathetic Politics with Nancy Pelosi. Well, Speaker Mimi is trying to pull a fast one and telling Trump to delay his State of the Union address. How convenient. Well, she's citing security concerns because of the shutdown. But the authorities are calling her bluff. Joining me now with the latest is Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry. Ed, tell us, what's the scoop?
Well, Laura, it's interesting. The Speaker's trying to spin this snub of the President as a security matter when the facts do not seem to support that, and it appears to be more a case of cold, hard politics. Some of the President's advisors tonight whispering maybe he should break with tradition, deliver his State of the Union on his own terms. Since the Constitution says a speech can be sent in writing to Congress, then the President could turn around and deliver those written remarks from, say, the Oval Office or maybe even the southern border with the Border Patrol and ICE. Remember, he just visited there instead of Capitol Hill on January 29th. Those scenarios being dangled as Pelosi's gambit appears to be backfiring a bit. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy tonight declaring this is unbecoming of the Speaker. Pelosi also seeming to take some heat from the Homeland Security Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen. She pushed back hard on the Speaker's claim that security concerns caused by the 4-week shutdown could make the State of the Union unsafe, tweeting, quote, "The Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Secret Service fully prepared to support and secure the State of the Union." Now, the President could also benefit from other cracks on the Democratic side. Senator Joe Manchin today seemed to rebuke Pelosi as he and other moderates in both parties work on a plan to give the Democrats what they want by trying to reopen the government for 3 weeks to give time to negotiate a compromise on what the President wants, more money for border security. Watch.
I'm not sure what her intentions are. I have the utmost respect for Speaker Pelosi, but I think this is wrong approach to be taken.
Now, remember, Pelosi's original invite to the President to deliver the State of the Union was back on January 3rd when the shutdown had already started. She had just come back from a Hawaiian vacation while the President was at the White House. Well, Fox has obtained this exclusive video of several congressional Democrats enjoying a cocktail party with lobbyists down in Puerto Rico during the shutdown. You can see at least a few lawmakers, Gil Cisneros, Pete Aguilar, and Mike Levin, on the Sereno Sand Patio is what they call it, at the La Concha Hotel in San Juan. Rooms, we're told, cost more than $400 a night. That comes after, of course, the weekend photo of a shirtless Senator Bob Menendez on the beach down there on the trip put together by lobbyists from various companies, Comcast, Pharma, Microsoft, Verizon. Now, Senator Menendez, though, told Fox it was neither fair nor balanced, in his words, to show that photo. A photo, Laura, you cannot unsee.
Okay, Ed, first of all, I love that overhead shot. That's like a balcony shot, and you have to give you the shadow graphic on that. That looked kind of fun, but I thought they were against all the big money in politics, and they always trash Republicans for hanging out with lobbyists. And wasn't that just yesterday? I think
that
one of the
was,
new progressives
and also, it's obviously with the shutdown, we keep hearing about, well, people are not getting paychecks, there's long lines for TSA, we need to be focused on all of that, and instead, you see some other stuff going on.
Yeah, I think Amazon could probably cover the government payroll with not even feeling it from Bezos'
They were
dry
one of the
cleaning
companies
bill
involved
for, like,
in this party.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could kind of cover it for a while for the good of the country. At least give us a loan. All right, Ed, fantastic report. Thank you so much. All right, joining me right now is House Minority Leader Steve Scalise and Congressman Scalise. I know you want to comment on the AOC lurch to the left of the Democratic Party, but Schumer and Pelosi love to say that Trump throws temper tantrums. So they say that he's petulant, he walked out of the meeting. Well, what does this look like?
Laura, the left has become unhinged. And look, I've been in all those meetings in the Situation Room with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, the top leaders in the House and Senate. In every single meeting, the president was not only calm, but he was putting options on the table to reopen the government while securing the border. Not one single time, Laura, did they ever put an alternative on the table. Not once. And so this has been going on for almost 30 days now. The president was there during Christmas waiting. He's there now. He's been talking to the American people, and frankly, you're seeing the polling getting better and better as people find out
they want
what's
to ride
really
this
going
out.
on.
She thinks she can ride this all the way to getting Trump to cave. This is going to be Trump's no new taxes moment. By the way, I said you were House Minority Leader. Whip.
Minority whip.
You're a better whip.
Republican whip.
Yeah, you're whipping those votes. But she thinks this is good for her politically. So for all the crocodile tears about the workers and they're all hanging out in Puerto Rico, but the workers, and you get every difficult story of a worker not being able to pay for a bill. Every single story is showing up. It's a drumbeat, and the pressure is on the president. They mean to put the pressure on the president to cave. I don't think the president's caving.
The president has been steadfast and consistent in saying that he is going to do everything it takes to secure America's border. He's pointed out just how bad the problems are. But look, Laura, this latest stunt, and it's not even a stunt, this is unprecedented, where a Speaker of the House is uninviting a president to the State of the Union.
Do you think she's going to turn her back? Do you think they will turn? I predict there are some in this progressive new caucus who will turn their back if that president walks down the aisle.
They've tried to do everything to insult the president, to not even acknowledge that he is the president. The bottom line is the American people want to know the facts about this. They want to watch. They've been tuning in. They watched last week and then saw Schumer and Pelosi give that ridiculous look in response. I think they're seeing that it's starting to come unhinged on their side when you see more Democrat members of Congress getting really nervous about this because they're seeing people not get paychecks, and they're seeing that their party is standing up for open borders. They don't want to secure the border. That's an untenable position to hold. So to say you're not going to let the president come to the Capitol to give a State of the Union.
I thought it was the People's House.
It's never happened before.
I thought she always likes to say it's the People's House, Grandma Mimi with all the grandkids. I mean, what is this?
They might be holding the paychecks of government workers hostage, but now to literally hold the State of the Union hostage, Laura, that's an untenable position.
You think the president should just say, I'm coming?
I'd like to see him pick another venue, go near the border, go show exactly what's going on, not only at the border, but look, if you live in Pennsylvania, you know somebody whose son died of an overdose from heroin. 90% of the heroin's coming from the southern border. This problem affects everybody in this country. We've got to secure the border. I don't think, look, the Pelosi can try to stop the truth from coming out. I talked to Secretary of Homeland Security Nielsen this evening about this very problem. She said, the Secret Service, first of all, they've been planning this.
That's a lie. Now, let's just call it what it is. They say that Trump lies. That was a lie.
The Democrats never even reached out to them to find out if this was a problem. It's not a problem. They're afraid of the facts coming out. Pelosi can't sustain this.
Cracks in the Democrat opposition to the wall.
They're feeling the heat.
They're starting
House members, some of these new House members that aren't far left like AOC, they're starting to feel the pressure.
Well,
and look they tried to stop some of them from going to the White House the other day. That's how bad it is.
They're criticizing Clemson. They're like criticizing Clemson. Some of these people are criticizing the National Football Champions. All right, this is Steny Hoyer on with Brett Baer today about whether the wall is immoral. Let's watch.
A wall is immoral if it tries to imprison people who shouldn't be imprisoned.
Okay.
A wall that protects people is not immoral.
Do you think a wall or barrier is racist?
Look, Brett.
Listen, Mr. Leader, here's the bottom line.
I don't talk in those terms. Yeah. I don't think that's the way we ought to look at it.
As I said in the angle, calling someone or something racist as a way to avoid a real substantive debate is that's a weak sister move.
Oh,
That's a weak sister move.
And it defies the gravity of where they were. In 2006, Chuck Schumer voted not just for steel slat barriers as they want to build. Chuck Schumer and Barack Obama voted for over $50 billion. The president's asking for 1/10 of that amount.
I think the president has to stay. He has to be a wall of strength for the American people.
President Trump has been rock solid, standing up for the American people to secure the border. Look, the American people, by and large, want to get this done.
Yeah, until Nancy drops her security detail and keeps the door open, Pacific Heights, then for wherever she's living now.
That's the time.
Okay, unlock the door to your house, and then we'll talk. Great to see you as always, Congressman. Thanks so much. And coming up, should transgender athletes be allowed to compete against the gender they identify as? That important debate, what this does to women's sports, next. South Dakota has become the latest state to wade into the transgender debate. The state legislature is now considering a controversial bill that would bar transgender students for playing on athletic teams based on their gender identity and requiring a student's sex to be determined by their birth certificate. Trace Gallagher is live in our West Coast newsroom with the whole story. Trace.
Laura, the primary sponsor of the South Dakota bill is Republican State Senator Jim Bolin, who prior to becoming a state lawmaker was a high school athletic director for 10 years. Bolin says it's all about fair competition and is patterned after rules in Texas, which require that students participate on sports teams that correspond with the sex listed on their birth certificate, saying, quote, this has nothing to do with bathrooms, locker rooms, or shower rooms. This has only to do with the eligibility for athletic competition. The South Dakota High School Activities Association and the South Dakota ACLU plan to fight the bill, with the ACLU saying, quote, participation in athletic activities has a widespread positive impact on the social, physical, and emotional well-being of students and provides kids with lessons about self-discipline, teamwork, perseverance, success, and failure. In an op-ed for Out magazine, transgender Olympic athlete Chris Mosier said this about the South Dakota bill, quote, like other policies targeting trans youth, this bill sends a message to trans students that they are shameful and not worthy of the basic educational benefits available to their peers. But last summer in Connecticut, a transgender student won the girls' track and field state championship. Another transgender student came in second, prompting parents to circulate petitions questioning the fairness and calling for a rule change. In Texas, a transgender high school wrestler was booed after beating a female competitor and advancing to the state finals. Watch this.
It's not fair for that individual that wants to transition and wrestle boys, and it's not fair for the female wrestlers for this unfair advantage.
And a lot of parents feel that way. South Dakota's Republican governor is currently studying the newly introduced bill and is not yet commenting on it. Laura.
All right, very interesting. Thanks so much, Trace. And here now is Bianca Stanescu. She is the mother of a girl that was beaten by a trans athlete in Connecticut that Trace just mentioned. And she's since circulated a petition calling on athletes to compete in sports based on the gender of their birth unless the athlete has undergone hormone therapy. It's very confusing. And Joanna Harper, she's been called the leading expert on trans athletes and happens to be one herself. Bianca, as a mom who's seen her daughter beaten, defeated by a trans athlete, tell us about that experience. I played high school sports, and I remember the boys soccer team in Glastonbury, Connecticut. We were ranked #1 in field hockey my junior year. The boys team, soccer team, came and played us for just fun. They beat us like, I think it was like 5-0. We were all really mad. They'd never picked up a field hockey stick before. They're just a lot faster. But what did it feel like for you?
Well, what it came down to, first it came as a shock because you expect athletes to compete at a certain level. When somebody stands out of the crowd at such a advantage over the others, you start questioning. When we first found out about this, we were not even aware that there were transgender females competing at that point. We were looking at the athlete just being another girl. And
we're looking at, just so people know, we're looking at Terry Miller, I believe, on the screen. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, Yes, who won not only one race, but broke 2 records, both in the 200-meter dash and in the 100-meter dash. And these are very competitive districts. I remember them well in Connecticut. Buckley High School is a great school. Glastonbury High School, another great school where I came from. But you can see it's quite a very speedy. So was your daughter upset at the athlete, or hold anything against the athlete, or just upset because she thought it was just an unfair advantage? Bianca.
It's the rule, and what Terry Miller made us aware of is that one day you can compete as a male and the next day you can compete as a female, because that's what happened in this particular case. Was listed and competed as a male up until the end of the indoor season in 2018, only to start the season 2 weeks later and compete as a female. Wow. And one question is, how is this possible?
Okay, Joanna, I want to go to you. I want to hold on one second. I want to get Joanna's perspective here. Joanna, I have to say, as someone who played sports pretty seriously, I love sports. I miss team sports. So much fun. I want everyone to play. I mean, I love the fact that girls are out there competing and they're doing so well. I love it. I think it's great. It's great for your self-esteem and so forth. But isn't it true that just a biological fact that men have faster small twitch muscles? They have larger internal organs, both lungs, hearts. I mean, this is just physiological. It's not a political statement. So isn't that an inherent advantage no matter what you're going through? Just your makeup, your hip size, all those things that lead to that type of strength?
On average, men will run races 10 to 12% faster than women. And so, that is why we separate male from female athletes. After hormone therapy, trans athletes lose much of their advantage. But in this particular case in Connecticut, these individuals were not on hormone therapy.
So you would not think that, especially in the races that were involved, that was fair to the young women who were competing in the gender of their birth in that category? That wouldn't be something you would advocate.
Most high school athletes aren't really that serious about their sports. And so in terms of participation,
I was.
Well,
I get what you're saying.
I think that there are levels.
It was pretty competitive.
Let me finish here, Laura, please. But in those cases where you are talking about state champions,
see you. How is it that I could do the show out of New York for 2 days and you can't walk 5 flights of stairs? I don't even know what floor you're on.
So you're in New York
again? Everyone thinks we're all hanging out together, but I never see Tucker. He's I never see you.
Literally, I spend an hour and 20 minutes in this building, and I'm boom out the door.
Yeah, I know. You come in. Hannity comes in with jeans and vape pen. Sorry, am I not supposed to say
I do. No, I do. It's called a Jewel. It's a great.
Oh no, we're trying to get that. Oh no,
remember the Daily Mail literally ran frame by frame. They got me on tape.
That was actually. Wait, you have to take up smoking again
my
to
son,
quit the vape
it shows up on bar stools. My son's like, Dad, that's really cool. My daughter's like, Dad, that's so humiliating and embarrassing.
I'll stick with your daughter's analysis. Sean, you had a great show tonight.
All right, have
Fantastic.
a great show.
All right, it's good to see you. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle back in Washington tonight. Progressives gone wild. Right off the bat, that's the focus of tonight's angle. The 2020 election cycle has already begun, and the superstars of the Democratic Party are now more left-wing than ever before, and they're already trying to outdo one another on the compassion scale.
Well, the first thing I would do is restore what's been lost, the integrity and the compassion of this country.
New York loves you if you are L or G or B or T or Q, if you are black or white or brown, if you are a Christian, a Muslim, or if you are Jewish, if you're a new immigrant or an old immigrant, New York loves you. And what makes us great is we have no tolerance for hate in our state.
Catchy. He left off Asians and atheists. Okay. Of course, when Cuomo says no tolerance for hate, he really means no tolerance for conservatives and the positions that they hold. Because in Cuomo's compassionate New York, there's also no tolerance for the inalienable rights of the unborn. You know, the life in the womb that his own church says is sacred.
I believe we should pass a constitutional amendment, not just a Roe v. Wade law, a constitutional amendment. Let's write the rights of Roe v. Wade into the state constitution so it can never be changed.
I think what's going on here is that Cuomo, like so many on the left, is really worried. He's worried that the Supreme Court might reverse Roe, might send it all back to the states. And he also has to know that public opinion is shifting a bit toward the more pro-life position. And by the way, if America's declining fertility rate continues, hey, Andy, I have a question. Who's going to pay all those taxes to support his pet projects? Of course, with zero regard for facts, Cuomo brags that he has this economic prosperity thing down.
We're the most progressive government in the United States of America. We balanced budgets. We have the most socially progressive accomplishments of any state in the nation, and it's not even close. First big state to pass marriage equality. First state to pass $15, the highest minimum wage.
Yay, the Democrat zombies, they actually pan the audience. They're all standing, they're applauding, standing ovation, but they're unconcerned with the real world effects of some of the